Just put my little finger on that. There, yeah.
Hello, friends. I'm back. I am, in fact, still alive. And wow, let me tell you, the last couple of months have been a real shit fire, real shitter. These last couple months. Wouldn't want to do that again. So anyhow, I'm back here with another shaky, incredibly shitty video to match the shittiness of these last couple of months. You can expect it to be very shaky and hastily put together. So my script here says I recently reviewed a Glock trigger, but we both know that's not true. It was a very long time ago. But anyway, I haven't reviewed a rifle trigger in an age or anything else for that matter, so this will feel pretty good. Tonight we're taking a look at the Geissele SSP, or single stage precision trigger, with the curved bow you can see there. This is Geissele's true single stage trigger in that it has no take up. You just apply pressure, gun go boom. Reviewing a high-end rifle trigger is kind of tough on camera. It's just a trigger. I pull it to the rear and it goes click. And then I say something like, wow, that felt really good. It's like one of your friends describing an especially excellent wank. I mean, you're glad they had a good time, I guess, but telling you about it does fuck all for you. And oh, that was an awful analogy. Let's hope it gets better from here. You know it's probably not gonna. So I'll do my best to describe what this thing feels like, but you're really gonna need to try one for yourself to truly know if you like it, or just to, use your imagination. Geissele makes outstanding triggers. I've never tried one and disliked it. I have more than a few, and they've always been reliable, consistent, and orgasmic to use. Would you like to hear about my last wank? I love when Bill Geissele is on YouTube describing the way each trigger breaks. He's like, well, this one breaks like a carrot. Well, this one is more of a candy cane, and this one gives you the carrot and the stick. This one is just the stick. I love it. It's fantastic. This one spares the rod and spoils the horse. Not like a carrot. You know what? This bit's going on for way too long. This one is an actual carrot. It's made from actual carrots pressed into a hard block of tool carrot. Then we mill it into a trigger. Oh man, that's gonna take some editing, isn't it? And I've said this before, but Bill says that shit like we should all immediately know what the fuck he's talking about. Like normal people go around breaking all of their foods in half to feel the fucking snap. I absolutely love it, and he should definitely do that more. You know what? Bill Geissele should get on YouTube, and he should just start breaking foods in half and comparing the food to other foods. That's what I actually want to see. This one's more of a candy cane. It's made out of candy cane. You know, the hook end that you hold while you suck the other end until it makes a really sharp, like peppermint prison shiv. Well, we take all those hooked ends that no one ever finishes and press them into a block of tool candy cane. We mill it into a trigger. In other news, I think that this is now my favorite trigger. Somewhere along the way, this supplanted the SSAE, and that's surprising. The SSAE was my favorite for years and years, and is one of, if not the greatest rifle triggers available. By the way, I'm saying it like SSAE because my southern accent just makes it come out as SSAE otherwise, and, God only knows what the fuck I'm talking about. I think it's because I grew up in the age of mil-spec AR triggers, when that was really all we had. Before all this cool aftermarket stuff, and mil-spec triggers are single stage. Awful creaky single stages like an old haunted house, but single stages all the same. So I think the SSP, it kind of reminds me of those, despite being, in an entirely different league and far lighter. But my brain sort of reads the SSP as being something like the greatest version of the mil-spec trigger. And so I shoot it pretty well as, I'm kind of able to shoot anything. But I love this thing. All right, enough yakking and jacking. Let's dive in. Oh, what is wrong with me today? I haven't done this in a while, and it's getting extra weird. Features. Why did I say it like that? Features. Is that how I always say it? Features. Ugh. The Geissele SSP is a single-stage AR-15 trigger that easily drops in. Why? And I emphasized easily. Why did I say that like that? The Geissele SSP is a single-stage AR-15 trigger that easily drops in. There we go. That's how a person would say that. Now, it isn't a cartridge trigger, but it's still very easy to install. YouTube won't let me show you that process, but despite having enough brain damage to watch one of my awful videos, you at least possess enough sentience to use a computer, and installing one of these is about as difficult as turning your computer on and off. These triggers are made of tool steel and are finished in a black oxide to prevent corrosion. You know, the usual Geissele stuff. Geissele says that the pull weight is 3 to 3.75 pounds, to cover the variances brought on by manufacturing tolerances. Mine breaks at about 3.5 pounds, which is perfect in my book. Geissele triggers are nice because though the geometry of the surfaces is a bit different to allow different trigger feels, they are fundamentally built more like mil-spec AR-15 triggers than something like, some of the cartridge triggers that you see. The Geisseles are a cinch to maintain, and they're safe and reliable. Most evidence seems to indicate that other than the very light pull weight on some of them, these are as safe as standard triggers. Though be aware, I haven't tested that myself. Do your own research. I'm not to blame if you add some unnecessary holes to your floor. But a lot of folks who use triggers professionally, they trust the Geisseles. As I've said 6,000 times, again, this is a single stage trigger. Let's see if this is going to be so shaky. Wow. When we apply a little pressure, there is no take up, none at all. In fact, the trigger doesn't move any amount that I can discern. None. And then when I apply the right amount of pressure, the trigger breaks once more. Yeah, it definitely breaks like a watermelon. Maybe a boiled egg, hot dog, ice cream sandwich, In-N-Out burger. I've never had In-N-Out burger. Where the fuck do you get In-N-Out burger? People always talk about that. They're like, oh, you got to go to In-N-Out burger. Wow, I live in South Carolina. We don't have a fucking In-N-Out burger here. We have a rundown Wendy's. That's all we got. Performance. Now that we know that this trigger is a trigger that fires the gun, let's talk about how fucking awesome it feels. It feels very reassuring somehow when you touch the trigger bow. And there's just no movement at all. I'm not really sure why I like that. It's just nice. Just feels good. Again, I think that's because of how reminiscent it is of a mil-spec AR trigger. Then you apply pressure. Perfect snap. No creep, no extra movement of any kind. Apply the right amount of pressure and the trigger breaks cleanly and crisply like fried chicken, cookies, Marmite, old banana. It is just perfect. Once more. God, that feels good. I said it was perfect before. Nothing's perfect, but it's as close to perfect as we can get with a manufactured item, Now for the reset. I don't know, how the fuck am I going to show the reset here? It's going to be tough. I didn't think this through, did I? The reset is very firm. Most Geissele triggers return to the beginning of travel, so this returns all the way to the beginning of travel. But again, very crisp. This might make the reset seem long, but this is desirable. It's not a bug, it's a feature. All these triggers are light, so this prevents you from accidentally bumping off an extra shot or two under duress. But again, that break is marvelous and the reset is nice and firm. Oh, it's excellent. That is just fantastic. One more time. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Doesn't get any better than that. So yeah, it's the same travel distance as a mil-spec trigger. It's slightly longer than some of the cartridge triggers and others that deviate a bit more from the standard trigger geometry. So keep that in mind. But again, I view that as a safety feature rather than a problem. So I avoided this and other single-stage triggers in general because for a long time the common wisdom was that two-stage triggers are more accurate at a distance. For me, there's been no discernible difference in accuracy performance between the SSAE and the SSP. I get great hits with both, assuming I'm doing my part. That is. Some days that's easier said than done. And for me, I think the SSP is just an all-around better trigger. The SSAE is very fast up close, don't get me wrong, but the single stage is even faster. You can really crank rounds out of the gun with this thing at close targets. Yeah, it might be nice to prep the trigger taking longer shots, but again, I grew up with the mil spec, so I think I prefer to just focus on applying careful, consistent pressure one time. And that's it, really. The SSP feels amazing. I have zero complaints. There's nothing I would change about it, and that's very rare. So the question that everyone is going to ask, because anytime I put out a trigger video, I get a bunch of comments asking this: would I use it for defense? Maybe. The question is, should you use it for defense? I don't think I'd recommend it for a defensive rifle for most people. For most people, this trigger is far too light. The vast majority of people should probably stick to stock mil-spec triggers, or maybe if they're feeling a little bit frisky, the standard and slightly heavier SSA. Yeah, which that might still be too light for some people. If you go with something even as light as the SSA, make sure you're very familiar with the rifle and experienced with the trigger. A lot of evidence indicates that folks are prone to firing when they don't mean to under duress. We lose motor function under pressure, and accidents happen. So know yourself, know your experience level, your training level, and purchase the right thing accordingly. If you're experienced, maybe something like the SSP would be worth a look for a defensive gun, but be very careful and do the work. If you're new to rifles, you might want to gain as much experience as possible with the mil-spec trigger and work on getting really fast with that safety lever. Then you'll know if you actually even want or need a new trigger. Odds are good something like the ALG triggers would serve you better anyway. I love those ALG triggers. They are absolutely fantastic. Final thoughts. You'd have a hard time finding a nicer trigger than the SSP. It's reliable, easy to maintain, and good lord, it feels good. There's arguably nothing that feels better. Let's look at that thing again. Let's look at it again. Oh. As always, make sure you're buying it for the right purpose and not just because you bought your first AR last month and the cool internet people are telling you to spend more money on a fancy trigger. You probably don't need it and should probably just practice with the mil-spec one that you got first. But if you're looking for a super light aftermarket single stage trigger, you can't do any better. You just got to feel one of these. Thanks for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you soon. Night night.